Amnesia? Forget it. Was it us who voted for Gough Whitlam or Malcolm Fraser, or Julia Gillard or Malcolm Turnbull? Only a bastard would want to remind us of such sins. So why does it always work out so badly? Because we're not voting for one thing at a time. Our democracy works like this. You get a vote. It is your say. Do you want A, a ripe pineapple, a kick in the shins, a bowl of apple pie and cream, and a good swift whack over the left ear? B, a large and delicious bow-in mango, a good hard kick in the guts, a bucket of marshmallows and fruit tubes, and a whack in the face with a brick? Or, alternately, C, any other like assortment, if you prefer. And you can't say, well, with choices like this, I'm not going to vote at all, because the Electoral Commission will quickly remind you that in this country, voting is compulsory and that fines of over $100 apply. So, we makes our choice and we pays our price. Most of us say, okay, give me the bash over the left ear, please, but please don't remind me that I asked for it. But while I was rubbing my ear, I got to thinking, there has to be another way. Days later, I came across a cringing, smelly mongrel dog who said to me from his downwind hiding place that voters need to be able to veto unwanted legislation. They need a people's delete button on Parliament. You mangy and obnoxious brute, I said. How could that possibly work? He suggested we get a setup like the Swiss have, where if 5% of Aussies sign a petition that they want to delete the decision to sell Darwin Harbour to the Chinese, at the next election there's a referendum on it, and if 50% agree, we've got the harbour back. Bloody hell, I said. I'm going to have a really hard think about democracy, because if we do something like this, we will have it. After a few days, I came to my senses. Sure, the mice want to put a bell on the cat, but in this case the fat cats in Canberra have to install the delete button on their own foreheads. Impossible. Utterly impossible. But by this time I was in a towering rage at all politicians, but more so at our own impotence before them. It was an angry, fuming rage of indignation, a storming exasperation in a mighty temper of umbrage, with such a bitter spleen full of bile and wrathful desperation I can hardly describe it. I could think of nothing for it but to get blind drunk. Next morning, a mongrel dog was trying to befriend me. I pushed him away roughly. You should not despair, he said. From here it is a pushover. What? I asked. The voter's veto, he said. Oh, that, I replied, as my passion for it was completely spent. Then he explained it. As everyone knows, to get another term in office, politicians will practically murder their grandmothers. But it's worse than that. Much worse. They'll even give us the voter's veto. Are they really as depraved as that? I wondered. Oh, definitely, he assured me. But only once we are resolved to determinedly act to put every sitting member last. Mongrel dogs bite all politicians in the ballot box until they support and establish the voter's veto. Rush all donations, large and small, to the child next door. Why? Because mongrel dogs aren't doing it for the money. Subsidiarity. What? The big word above means don't ask an emperor to do what the man next door can handle, and don't establish a world government to get the potholes outside your front door fixed. The principle is to keep government and all effective decision-making as close to the grassroots as it is possible to handle it. Mongrel dogs love this big word, and they don't have to be able to pronounce it to like it either. In many respects, the Australian Constitution did a fair job with this subsidiarity business. The states have retained many functions. Local governments fix the local roads, the judiciary controls the courts, and the politicians make legislation. Our head of state, the Governor-General, might be able to sack a government if it acted outside the Constitution, but he gets no say at all on what colour you paint your front door. So far, so good. The level closest to the grassroots is the people themselves. They are the grassroots. Subsidiarity says that where the people are capable of controlling something, they should have this responsibility. But the Founding Fathers, themselves politicians, almost forgot us. In effect, we got the right to choose the politicians that the political parties pre-selected for us, and we got the right to agree when the politicians wanted to change the Constitution to give themselves more power. Mostly we didn't agree. One thing is absent here. No matter what we the people want, or how badly we want it, or how important it is to us, of ourselves we can do nothing. Every decision we ever get to make is first initiated by politicians. It needn't be like that. The Swiss have a mechanism whereby they, the people themselves, can strike down any legislation with which they disagree. It is called the voter's veto, and they use it whenever they want. This is not often, as the politicians there know not to try anything too stupid, lest it be thrown out by the people. 5% of the people must ask for a referendum for this to happen, and then the majority of all voters decide. When this is explained to people here, most would like it to be part of the Australian system. Sadly, getting 50% of politicians to support it is harder than keeping ice creams in hell, because 50% of politicians will always believe that they know better than 50% of the people. Well, a mongrel dog has turned up, and he says it's easier than we think. We only need 10% of the people to put the fear of hell into our politicians, and we are starting to believe him. All you need to do is put all sitting members last.